Welcome to Soul Talks. Today we've got Harrison Klein, the leading transformationalist, with us, and Alicia Power is going to co-host it with me. Welcome. Thanks for doing this with me.
Hey. Thing to me. Thank you. Okay. Hi, Bevan. Thank you.
Thanks.
My pleasure.
So first I'll let you know what the purpose, why we're talking today, and then I'll introduce each of the guests. So the purpose of our talk today is to help spirit-led entrepreneurs who are doing their part to create heaven on earth, to leverage, scale, and multiply their business by speaking to larger audiences of their ideal clients online. And we're going to get into personal and business tips for exponential growth for new and advanced entrepreneurs. So my co-host today, Alicia Power, is a former journalist, master energy healer, advanced intuitive, consciousness thought leader, and author of numerous online courses. Her spiritual knowledge comes from 40 years studying spiritual mastery, and she has trained with CEO levels of the spirit worlds for 25 years. She loves to share this inner training with her global audience, helping them understand practical tools for awakening and soul leadership. And she regularly speaks on online platforms. She was the first person that I thought of who would make today's show even better by interviewing Harrison with me. Thanks for doing this with Harrison and I, and I'm excited for what's to come.
Yes, me too, Bevan. Just hugs to the both of you and to the audience watching this. This is just so delightful, so delicious, bringing beautiful souls together. Wonderful, Bevan.
Good on you. We've been having a great conversation behind the scenes before we got started. I look forward to learning more.
Yes.
So our special guest today was one of the top producers on UWealth Revolution, the world's largest energy healing intention circle. Harrison Klein is motivated to move humanity at great velocity towards an amazingly better future. He's an award-winning personal growth transformationalist and wealth and business growth consultant whose mission is to personally change 1 million lives around the globe and help entrepreneurs, salespeople, executives, coaches, marketers, and healers build multi-million-dollar companies, become the very best versions of themselves, and reach personal and/or business fulfillment. And he also teaches classes, leads workshops, creates dynamic online courses, writes articles and books, speaks publicly, produces events, and travels the world. Very, very busy man. There's more. He sits on the board of several multi-million-dollar organizations with a reach of more than 2 billion people. And he gets excited by the power of instant and sustainable enlightenments and elevation. In a nutshell, he's a cosmic traveler on a mission to elevate 1 million lives into source consciousness, wealth, love, wisdom, transcendence, and happiness in every way he can and with all of his heart. So it's a great honor to have you here today, Harrison. Thank you.
Thank you. You've been reading my book.
Your bio. On your book.
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate that, Bevan. Yeah, it's a great honor to be here.
Thank you. So please share with us your experience of speaking on UWealth Revolution and other large platforms, either online or live in person, that had impactful results for your business.
Let me retro for a second before I do that, Bevan. I want people to understand something before we move forward, because what I will share with you guys has a context. So everything that has a context is really, frameable from a personal standpoint. So I believe in the light of human consciousness. I believe that, we can end all human suffering. I believe that the progress of the human race is in our hands and that it's accelerating at a velocity beyond anything it's ever done before. I believe that well-being is actually easy. It's not something that is in a state that needs to be highly fixed or adjusted for most people. They just don't know where to look correctly. I believe in the metaphysics and the magic of mysticism, and I believe that we can union with Source. And I believe in the wormhole effect, which is what my specialty is. It's a wormhole effect, so that you don't have to go through steps to reach enlightenment. You simply can experience things in the highest proficiency and the best process. And what I'm teaching in this process, what I teach and what I have always taught, is basically will be standard knowledge in probably 30 to 100 years from now. and all I'm doing is bringing it to people 30 to 100 years in advance. So, I'm teaching it in creating what I'm doing is I'm helping to create, I believe in creating a world that doesn't yet exist, one in which all people are happy, all people have greatness. And I may not reach that in my lifetime. That's quite all right, but we're all going to get there. I believe we're all going to get there. And it's the evolutionary process that most interests me. And what excites me is instant transformation. So when UWealth Revolution came to me and began to say, what are you doing? What can you help our audience with? I began to express the process and the function of these kinds of experiences that I teach. So Darius, who headed UWealth, basically interviewed me in a way that was very, very revealing about some of the depth of our beingness, and one day, I guess we were discussing the whole aspect of feeling good and then remembering what that felt like. So I was inspired in the process of doing this interview. I was inspired. I loved my friend Darius, and I loved that he asked me to sell, 300 to 1,000 units of what I do so that it could sustain his program. And he said, most people don't do that. Well, I was inspired by the fact that he gave me a specific number. Nobody had ever given me a specific goal to reach when they interviewed me before, which was very interesting. And my inner guidance basically believed that I could do that 300 plus number. But, I got excited, and I got excited in the place of where I prepped my mind as to what would happen on the other end of this interview that I had with Darius. And so, I had not only reached the 300 level unit mark, but I went on to, in that 1 hour interview, and he had about 1,700 people on the call. I went on to sell 1,392 units on that one call, which was about $50,000 worth of sales on that one call. And at the time, nobody had ever done that. So, now there are people who have surpassed that, but during that particular period, nobody had ever done that. So now whenever I want to basically sell anything, high-end coaching, want to sell, enlightenment processes, beauty, truth, all the things that make the wormhole work and transformation, basically, I begin by anchoring myself in the mental process that I had at that moment. That I had when I decided to surpass his $300 unit goal for me. So I liked Darius. He inspired me by just giving me a specific number, which I had never had before. And then, I began my process. At some point, I had the intention to hold that feeling. And now, from that point on, I always hold that feeling whenever I go into an interview or a sales process or anything else. So I go right back to that. It's anchored in me. I know where to look. I know before I ever get on that I put myself into the correct state of mind. And, from there on, everything else just flows. It takes me a couple seconds to get into that state of mind, and it's easy for me from that point on. Does that help?
Oh, absolutely. That's awesome. Congratulations. And it was a 76% conversion rate of everyone listening there. And what was the price point with 1,300 sales?
No, that was $97 at that point. Now I sell the same program, but with additional 2018 updates, for $197. And also that is a prelude to working with me individually or in one of my high-end classes, which range anywhere from $10,000 to $100,000 per person. So, so all of that is put together through a series of belief patterns and understanding of what the essence of consciousness is, what the essence of beingness is, what the process is, and my ability to, help other people resolve their problems. Because ultimately, the light is a connection to the ability to solve all problems. So, it's I don't hesitate. I'm triggered by certainty in what I do. And so because of that conviction, I can make things happen. And that's the beauty of it all. So,
Harrison, quick question. Have you got, excuse me, a little process for people watching this, just very quickly, very simple, maybe a step 1, steps 2, step 3 in their mind, like a mental tool that wouldn't be to the depth and the nuances that you know how to do it, but perhaps just helps them move from one state to another before they do?
Sure. I mean, if you work on self-improvement, which is what most people come to me for in one form or another, if you work on confidence, if you work on problem solving, basically the first thing is to set an improvement goal, right? To set down and make an improvement goal, make a decision, write the problem statement. What is the thing you want to achieve? So that's the first thing. You want to achieve the next step or level of whatever it is place you're at right now. Then you want to analyze the problem in a way that gathers information so that you can listen to and get a sense of what others have done to achieve that situation. But the big difference here is that you don't just look at what others have done. You look at the why behind they do things, behind why people do things. You look for the root cause of what it is you want to achieve, and what the root cause of your why for why you want to achieve it. And when you come to the root cause of your why, now you become powerful, because the whys are 10 times as powerful as the whats. The whats are only the superficial level. I want to achieve $1 million. Well, why do you want to achieve it? Most people talk to me about, when they say I want to achieve $1 million, they talk to me about different things, about getting a yacht, having more material things, being able to be more socially conscious and available and things of that nature. But those are not that's not the root cause of achieving $1 million. Those are the consumer-based processes. We need to switch over to the production-based processes, because the focus is wrong when you focus on the consumer stuff. That's the spending of the $1 million. That's not achieving the $1 million. So when I help move people over into the production end of that, then the achievement becomes easy. So how do you produce $1 million? Well, you save, you invest, you find out entrepreneurial ways to deal with things, you solve problems for other people, you come up with strategies, and you select the best of those strategies. You gain alliances, you gain approval, you look for support in every single way possible. So as we start to do that, we start to get ideas about how to act, what to move forward, and what to follow through on. It's not just that you set a goal for $1 million and you're going to have an internet business that gets to $1 million. And if you don't have the why correct for how you're going to help, then you're always going to be moving uphill. If you have the why, you are in flow with things. And so the process of that is to create mastery at something, to become really good at something. And the mastership of all that is really to communicate what it is that you want to, check and adjust in the process, and then to celebrate that before it ever happens. So in other words, if you want to make $1 million, you have to be a millionaire internally long before you are a millionaire externally. And that doesn't mean that you just say, I'm rich and I have $1 million. That means you have to act in the way millionaires act. In other words, you have to look at investments. You have to look at deals. You have to look at, why they want to do what they want to do. How do they want to help humanity? What's their skill set? What is their mindset? All those other kinds of things like that. You have to be in the same identification process, or what I call the I am principle. And when you have an identification of an I am principle, you become great, because the I am principle is the governance of all energy. And when you govern energy, you can make things happen. That's what governing energy does. It makes things happen in the simplest path of least resistance. And it's beautiful. And all you do is you're at a place of awe and joy. So it's really fun. And it's not really that difficult. So the wormhole is basically to go from where you are to start doing the things that are already at the place you want to be. That's all that it takes. You're already there. So you start dressing like a millionaire, a multimillionaire. You start looking at deals continuously, even if you don't make the deals, but you look at the deals. Even You start to walk around in the houses that they would have, these magnificent mansions, or whatever the case may be. Whether you're there or not, you have a physical sensation of walking in that mansion. You're already in that place. It isn't about what you spend, it's about what you are experiencing internally. So and the more real that becomes for you in terms of the visualization and the physicalization. And here's what most people teach that don't teach, that I teach, is that it isn't enough to visualize something. It's also you have to physicalize it, which means that it's got to be anchored in your physical body. You've got to embody it. You do that through the I am principles and through doing the things you want to have. So if you want to have a soulmate, you want to set the table for 2 people instead of just yourself when you're cooking. If you want to have a soulmate, you want to hang out, at places that there are, people who are loving each other, and you can see that, like couples experiences and so on and so forth, so that you get in the energy of that. Everything is energy, right? You agree that everything is energy? And if everything energy, it's not different energy, it's the same energy. There's only one energy, so it's just different frequencies, which means, like in the ocean, here's a cold spot, here's a wave, here's something else, but it's all the ocean. So it's all really the same energy. All you're doing basically is tapping into, here's the cold spot, here's the warm spot, here's the tsunami, here's the wave, here's the ice cracker, here's the depth, et cetera, et cetera. So when you start to work with the governance of energy, you simply take it to the place where you want to be. And you can project it. So you like Richard Branson, as a billionaire, look at his energy. What does he project as he talks to people, as he's interviewed, as he does deals? Look at those things. Put your energy into that, merge with that energy. You then experience the same things he's experiencing, which is a magnetic field which draws reality to you. And that's pretty much as simple as that. And that's what
Dr. Lee Poulos talked about with his deep trance identification. And also, I'll mention Neville Goddard wrote "Feeling is the secret." Right? It's not visualizing; it's the feeling.
Yeah.
Yes.
Visualization is important, but there's 2 steps to visualization. The first one is to see it from the position of, you're out there and you're looking at it. The second step is to see it from the position of being in the center of it. So when you're walking through a bank, you're visualizing, you are seeing what's on the left side of you, what's on the right side of you, what's on the floor, what's on the ceiling, who are the people in the bank, what does it feel like to be in this atmosphere? Is it frenetic? Is it joyful? Do you watch the anxiety of people transferring money, or do you watch the joy of them receiving money, or whatever the case may be, or signing papers? So it's not just the visualization, because if you just visualize it, it's still away from you. The way to go the wormhole, you have to bring it into you, not into the future. It's got to be the joy of the now. That's how and when you physicalize it, it's the joy of the now. And then you have the power of how that feels. Pretty much as simple as that.
Thank you.
There's a lot of things I can play with on top of that for individual issues, but that's the nutshell. That's the 30,000 foot, perspective.
All right. And thanks, Alicia, for asking that question.
I have lots of questions, but Bevan, you go ahead.
Actually, you go ahead if you have one.
Oh, well, yes.
I'll ask you guys some questions. No.
Harrison, I was just going to say, look, the people that are probably watching this are starting their journey to, or maybe not, maybe they're further down their journey to plug themselves into or partner with or collaborate with people like Darius on Tele Summits, on already set up situations that they can plug into. And if you could give a little bit of advice to them on how to start, how to position themselves, how to build their positioning, how to build their platform, what do they need ready to be seen as a ready contributor to that kind of a Tele Summit circuit, and just any advice you've got on that.
And before you answer, also I want to mention, so not just Tele Summits, but like podcasts or different various kinds of platforms, right, that you can speak on, and even joint venture with them.
Well, I was a pioneer in the telesummit world. I was one of the first between the first and the fifth anyway. I don't know anybody who'd done it before me, but other people told me that you know, there were some people doing it simultaneously with me. But what I did, and I'll tell you, I made $86,000 on the very first day that I was in business. So this is how it worked. I had an idea. How do you make $1 million, right? Because that's what I thought people wanted at the time. Now I'm very much into consciousness. Wealth is secondary. But how do you make $1 million? So I said, okay, well, why don't we get, you know, 10 or 12 of the world's best experts on wealth and ask them the same question, but each one from a different angle. So I went to Joe Vitale and I said, how do you make $1 million? What's $1 million lifestyle? Well, and then I went to Harbecker and I said, what's $1 million perspective? And then I went to Bob Proctor and I said, what is the paradigm that you have to know to make $1 million? And I went to somebody else. I took a different angle from each person, all geared toward the same end result. And when you do that, basically you have a theme that's consistent. People like that. They know that. They feel comfortable with it. They're improving on a detail, and they're not jumping around from one thing to another. They're still in the same process of gaining the mastery. And mastery is nothing but a series of adjustments. So you want to master a process, you have to have different angles to just adjust your process into better and better and better and better. And that's what mastery is. So you want to, anything you study for any long period of time, you gain mastery over. So if you want to make $1 million, study millionaires. You would study the $1 million process, or billionaires, or whatever the case may be. I'm studying billionaires now, so I'm on track to that. So yeah, so it's fun.
So back to Bevan. People who are starting, who are wanting to plug in, just a little bit of advice for people who want to position themselves as speakers. This is a little bit below where you're talking, actually, Harrison.
Alicia, I got a break.
Yeah, you go for it. Go for it.
They should already be speakers, but they want to go to larger, more influential platforms.
Excellent.
Like what I wanted to ask you, but which I forgot to ask you, was like, what did you do before you started getting invited onto them? Because you said Darius invited you on. So like, when did you start getting invited on to speak?
I think when I put together the idea of the Masters Gathering, which was, you know, how to create $1 million from 12 different places. The first person I connected with was a woman by the name of Cynthia Kersey. I don't know if you know who she is, but she's now a philanthropist. At that time, she was an internet marketer, but she's extremely wealthy now. She builds schools in South Africa for underdeveloped villages and areas there. So when I connected with Cynthia Kersey, I said, you know, I want to put this thing together. And I said, I have a great idea, and I think it will serve a lot of people. So when I started to do that, she said, oh, well, I know this person would be great for that. And I said, well, who do you know? And she said, oh, I know Harbecker very well, or I know Bob Proctor. She said, I'll make a phone call for you. And, you know, and they basically did that. So as you speak your idea with conviction and with the ability to communicate it in a very short amount of time. In other words, they have to grasp the vision very quickly. If they can grasp the vision very quickly, you will find support. If you have to go through details, or you're, you know, unsure, or you're nervous, or you've got, you know, doubts and self-doubt and things like that, it's not going to come across as something that people want to get involved in. But if you bring the essence of conviction into it, you'll find that all over, everywhere you go, somebody will want to help you do something. They'll want to help you advance your cause, one different thing. Right now, I have a huge cause. Can I tell you a little bit about what I'm doing right now?
Absolutely. Can I add something in and then go back to you? So really knowing your why, your purpose of doing this very, very clearly, right? And having passion or enthusiasm when you're telling them.
Yeah. So you have to come into the place of confidence when you communicate, and you want to make it as succinct as possible so that the people you want to help you can grasp the vision very quickly. When they grasp the vision very quickly, they are emotionally moved. When people are emotionally moved, they support you. All the intellectualism in the world will not emotionally move somebody until they feel your conviction on something. So when you have a conviction on something, people will come out of the woodworks from around the world to help you.
I love that, Harrison. So
Yeah.
powerful. Yeah.
Thank you.
So beautiful.
So I wanted to tell you what I'm doing right now, so just so you guys can get a sense of this in a greater perspective. I have a vision now to revamp the entire world's educational system, complete and total. In other words, what I'm doing is I believe that the world's educational system over the past 120 years has totally been irrelevant. And, I've gone all the way through college and beyond and into master's degree and partially into a doctorate degree. And almost 95% of what I learned is irrelevant to anything that I do in my life. So, the educational system has to reflect what is important to people. Right now, it reflects what is not important to people. It reflects what's important to power people who can use you to gain greater wealth or whatever the case may be. So it was my idea to create a customized education for every human being based on not what is the need in the society, but on the inner guidance system that each of us has. Each of us is given a series of gifts. And I know for a fact that most parents, and mine included, and my experience has been, try to teach their kids or try to pressure their kids into getting good grades and going to the best schools and doing, great stuff. But if you reverse that and you teach kids how to work from their gifts as opposed to from the goal process out there, and this is the big difference when you have them, you have a gift to give the world. What is that gift? How can you give that gift? Don't worry about grades. Don't worry about school. Don't worry about any of that other bullshit. Once you get into that space of what is my gift and how can I best communicate that and how can I improve it continuously, they will get the best grades. They will go to the best schools. They will have the greatest amount of influence. They'll become leaders in their field. They will join, processes that are world shaking in a great way. So it's a reversal of the way that we're taught about things. And when you can do that, so what I've done is I've enlisted Nobel Prize winners. I've enlisted some of the most brilliant people on the planet, world champions in athletics, world champions in finance, world champions in a number of different things to revamp that educational system to work from the gift place. What is the gift you give to the world? Not what can you do and what can you regurgitate. So when that space, and I'm customizing that for every single child that lives, every single child that goes through the system from kindergarten all the way through their PhD, if they want to go that high. If they work from their gift place, they will always be the best at what they do, in their industry, in their field.
Wow! So, congratulations! What extraordinary concept, vision, extraordinary, Harrison. And how courageous are you? I love the fact that you don't care about the current structures and create your own structures. Okay, we're doing it this way now.
Right. I've studied genius for a long time, and what happens in the genius process is that you challenge assumptions. That is how geniuses become genius. They challenge the assumptions upon which things are based. And when you really look at the core of what anything is based upon, and you see, where it is, where it's going, and what the intensity of it has been and is, and you pick that up, there will always be people who support you. And then, the momentum of that will grow into a gigantic movement. And what you want to do here's the new currency of 2018 and on, actually from about the last 10 years, but more so in 2018 and on, the new currency is community, which is what I did with the World Intuition Summit. When you create a community of people who are like-minded, you will have something that moves the world. And so, you don't have to worry about money. You don't have to worry about any of those things. Money comes to you when you create a community. So it's very simple.
That is so awesome. And that's like your journey, right? As you created those collaborations, that's what manifested abundance.
Amazingly so, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I'm excited about your mission.
What's that?
Oh, I'm very excited about your mission, revamping the world's education system, coming from your gift place. And it sounds like what I want to create, a world where everyone does what they love. Is that the same? That's the same thing, isn't it?
Rooted in the same thing. Not exactly the same thing, but it's rooted in the same thing, yeah. You know, I believe in the fact that, you know, we can end all suffering on this planet. I believe in the fact that we can create a world that allows people to express themselves in a way that is limitless joy and create great achievements without the effort of having to be managed, you know, but a place full of inspiration. There's 3 levels of growth in the consciousness world. The first level is the level of, you know, being told what to do, you know, and that is what we grow up through. We are told what to do, where to put our attention, what to think, how to do things according to other people's systems. The second level of attention, or the second level of growth, is inspiration. So when you are inspired, you know, you automatically have conviction. So when you find the inspirational level, you're at a very high level of doing. And in that high level of doing, you're always going to gain support. But the third level, which is the highest level, is the level of being. And that is that you become whatever it is you want to experience and what the world wants to experience. I think Gandhi said it, be the change you want to have happen. But the level of being is the highest level you can achieve in the human form. I mean, you can go out of the human form and achieve other levels, but that's not what we're doing. That's not why we came here. But you know, if you are a studier of energy beyond the human form, you can go into any form, any place you want to go. So I've been at the core of subatomic energy, and I've been at the vastness of the universe, the ends of the galaxy. You know, in a mystical experience. You know, we won't get into that here.
There was a lot of other questions I wanted to ask you, but it looks like we're out of time, right? Unless you want to go for a few more minutes, because
I'm open to whatever will move your audience.
Okay, well, let's ask a beginner question then. So how could someone who has not been interviewed yet or spoken on someone else's platform yet, how could they get invited to speak?
Have a big idea that will serve the audience of the people who you want to speak in front of. You know, the better your idea, the greater becomes your ability to communicate it. You know, you have to be convinced, again, you know, you have to be non-nervous, or in other words, confident, which means that you're not overwhelmed by the idea. You feel that it's part of you. You have to come into a place where you can buffer the questions that come around those things, so that you have to have enough depth of perception to understand the process. You have to have very little self-doubt or hesitation when you experience or discuss the flow of it. You cannot be triggered by hypercriticalism. You cannot be triggered by, you know, fear. You cannot be triggered by, you know, specific goals that you think are too big, or whatever the case may be. So to come into the place of where you can be invited into, you know, the circles of people who are much higher than you, you have to have something that you can contribute to the conversation. To sit back, some will let you do that, some will not let you do that. But generally, you're always in a better place if you have a contribution you can make, which means that you do the thing that's the hardest on the planet to do, which is to think deeply. You know, to focus your concentration on something that matters for somebody else. Not to be gossipy, not to be, you know, kind of regurgitating other people's things, but to be original in a sense. That's the hardest thing you can do. But when you decide to do the work, when you go internally to focus, when you go internally to experience concentration, to break through what is the conditioning that, you know, is the stuff that everybody else says, you then have something that matters to other people, because now you're connected. You are connected to whatever is beyond, you know, the superficial. So, you know, and that goes beyond culture, it goes beyond diversity, it goes beyond self-criticism, it goes beyond victimhood, it goes beyond helplessness. You know, you launch something inside of yourself that is dramatic. And as you launch that dramatic thing, you become a force of nature. And in that force of nature, it doesn't matter what location you're in, you basically attract in gigantic connection. And that's what people want. People want something that's going to move them emotionally, not They don't want the reasons why. They don't want 12 steps, a 12-step program to get someplace. That's BS. What they want is, how do I connect with this emotionally? And if you can do that, if you can create the emotions for them, you have now made a serious penetration into a bigger space for all of humanity.
Wow. Very insightful and inspiring, Harrison. Thank you. That's a great way. It's almost like a roadmap to create value.
I got my weights here. You want to see this?
I was just going to say, Harrison, you described leadership. Oh, look at that. In your chair. in your chair. And
I have my ropes connected to my chair, to my handles. So that's kind of fun.
What you just described is just cracking the ice and stepping forward into leadership, basically. And leadership of your own research, your own internal, as you were saying, just whatever it is your gift, just becoming the leader in that and competency in that. And offering
we're all natural leaders. We get distracted out of our leadership. From all this conditioning that's around us, and the media telling us what's cool and what's not, and people telling you should do things this way or that way. We all get distracted out of who we really are, because if we don't, John DeMartini put it a beautiful way. He said, anything that you don't empower yourself on gets overpowered by the collective consciousness. So I always look for what is my power in the situation, not the overpowerment of what I'm being told. When the voice inside, he said it this way, and I love it. When the voice inside is bigger than all the voices outside, you are the greatest leader that can be in your world. So, yeah.
Bravo.
That is so valuable.
Do you have any questions for Harrison? How about one question?
I've got a few. Hang on a second, guys.
Okay.
Yes, look, my last question to Harrison was actually everything you've been talking about, Harrison, all the way through, which is to just build the self-vision, right, of who you are. Like, that's what you've been talking about all the way through. Right. Just really quickly, it's boring, like in terms of it's nuts and bolts, and it's the production side. How do you design your special offer and packages? Because as a speaker, as someone who's already a speaker, what Tele Summits and collaborators are looking for is your back-end special offer and the package that you can offer. So just any tips on maybe on designing them, on what you choose, what sort of value you make sure is there, just anything that you'd like to offer in terms of building a package.
The most important part is not to speak to great numbers of people. The most important part is to speak to people who resonate with your message. So when you can speak to people who believe as you do, in other words, you connect with the people who believe as you do, now your audience gets value automatically. So it's not about, speaking to the Lions Club or to, Microsoft or whatever, unless, those people have similar values and similar ideas that you can contribute to their growth through. So that's, as far as I'm concerned, the most important part of it. You can find out what their audience wants. I mean, that's what they teach you in speaking school. Find out what your audience is looking for. But what's more important to me is finding out what their audience believes. And if their audience has particular values and beliefs, then if that resonates with me, then I can make a contribution. And then that's easy. I step in front of somebody and I just say, let's talk. And that's all, basically. And, whatever comes up, because now it's relevant. It's emotionally connected. If you go out there and you say, I want to talk about, the 7 steps to happiness, you got a whole bunch of people in the audience say, well, he's a good speaker, or that, I don't think that's the right way, blah, blah, blah. But if you say, I am the happiest person on the planet, and I am in a great relationship, I have a terrific amount of money, I'm connected to some of the most substantial people on the planet, I love smiling more than I love my own face, stuff like that, they get connected, and it doesn't matter what the audience is. They'll find you. And so now you're making a difference, and they will get you other audiences. You don't have to go looking for audiences yourself. And it's
quite simple, isn't it, Harrison? It's quite a simple thing. It's a step away from even self-criticism or anything like that when you're in front of an audience, and just, we're all together, we're in a community, we're having a party together, let's love each other, let's connect. It's actually quite a simple moment, isn't it?
Yeah.
Of love with your audience.
All of it comes down to love. All of it comes down to love. The ultimate end thing is unconditional love. To remove all the conditions of love so that there's nothing that needs to come between you and anything else. You are it. What you see is you, even though you can only see something that's separate than you, but what you see is really a reflection of what's going on inside of you. And there's only a couple ways to change into higher space of love, and that is to create a better self-image, and then to move from that self-image into the willingness of moving higher capability with your self-image. And in so doing, you bring that into the now with you, and then you don't have to do anything else. When you're in the now, everything takes care of itself, and your message is clear. Your vibration is what's a good word for it? I don't want to call it serene. I want to call it dynamic. So your message is dynamic, and in the dynamicism, it moves to as many people as can possibly be. There are multiple dimensions of consciousness, and the seventh dimension, what I call the seventh dimension, is influence. And when you come into the influence, you are using your light, which is the sixth dimension, which is the fifth dimension, your creativity, which is the sixth dimension, and you use that for influence. And what happens is you begin to connect with people you've never seen, you've never talked to, you've never had any connection with whatsoever. So that is that, like an author who writes a best-selling book connects with 35,000 other people who he's never seen, never met, never had anything to do with. Pablo Picasso painted paintings that have gone around the world 7 million times. Okay, he's connected his art and his emotion, and that art has connected with this many people. He'll never, even though he's dead now, but when he was alive, he still didn't connect with any of the millions of people that loved his work. He didn't have direct connection, but they felt his energy. They experienced his energy. They experienced the emotion that he put into that. So in that space, you become something extraordinary. In that dimension, you become something extraordinary. And people recognize it. But what's even more important is that you recognize it. You recognize the impact you're having on those around you. And in so doing, you're limitless. You experience yourself as limitless. That is when you go to the outside of the galaxy or universe or whatever, and then you can use the mystical to come down into the subatomic field if you want as well.
That's right.
Wonderful, Harrison.
So valuable, Harrison.
The big thing that I got from this today is, yes, namaste. A big thing I got from this is that feeling place. Going to the feeling place, sharing that feeling or experience with people, that's value. Yeah.
Well, in the immortal words of Mick Jagger, I give you, I know it's only rock and roll, but I like it.
Yes, and I notice your guitar behind you too, by the way. You're probably a maestro.
I can play and all that kind of stuff. That's so much fun.
Oh yeah, I'll be going to a guitar virtuoso concert here tomorrow. No, 2 days from now in the evening. Alfredo Muro. Really awesome. If you get a chance, check him out.
Okay.
So do you have a free gift for our audience, Harrison?
I do, actually, yes. I have a 30-day spirituality challenge. There's two things that I'd like to do while we're here. One is I have a 30-day free spirituality challenge. So you can go to IamHarrisonKleinInternational.com, and you can get a 30-day, every single day you'll have a challenge for 30 days that will move you into a higher space of consciousness and self-image. And that will, in point of fact, deal with rebuilding belief patterns to a space of where you feel really, dynamically grounded and strong, so that you can do what you want to do. I also have my 3 books that I have written, volume 1, 2, and 3. Let's see what I did with them. I do have one here. Let me see if I can just get that.
All right. This has been an amazing interview, and thank you, Alicia, for collaborating with us.
What a treat, I have to say, Bevan. And Harrison, it's just been an extraordinary listening to you, Harrison.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much. No, absolutely. Just the gems. You've just been pouring gems constantly. And people listening to this and watching this video are going to have to review it and review it and review it and re-listen and re-listen, because it was thick. It was so thick with knowledge and consciousness training. My goodness.
This is my book. I have 3 volumes of this book called The Amazing Life-Changing Messages from the Light. And it's basically channeled information that has come to me and through me from Source. And that it constantly moves the understanding of life is coming from each of us, not to each of us, and we're not in it. It's not us in relation to the world, which is why most people get into all kinds of trouble. It's the world in relation to us. And when we basically understand it from the perspective of as Michael Jackson said, we are the world. Remember that song? We are the world. When you understand that the world is in relation to you, you're not in relation to it.
Yeah,
so,
I get it. I get that.
Yeah. So when you come to that space, basically, you can channel things from source energy. We are both source energy, and we are also a channel for source energy. We are the vehicle in order to promote the expansion of the universe for a lot of different things. So these are, I have about 900 pages of messages from the light that I've gotten over the course of the last 5 years, and there's a lot more coming because I have a bunch that haven't been yet published, but they're still in editing version. But so you can pick that up at either I think you can pick that up at www.theenlightenedself.com. The book is only $19.97, and will give you a perspective, I believe, of how to experience, channeled energies and feelings. So it's called The Amazing Life-Changing Messages from the Light. So, everybody gets it, few people listen. So to figure out how to listen a little bit better and you can get it as easily. I'm not anything special. I'm just somebody who is in their humanness. So it's connected to their humanness. So, life is a blast, babies. Go out and live.
Yes. Yes, Harrison. Thank you so much for your commitment to consciousness and to your consciousness and to universe, to becoming the universe. Thank you so much for your commitment to that.
Thank you. I like your accent. Is it Australian or South African?
It's Australian.
Australian, okay.
Yes.
If it was South African, you'd have to drop your voice at the end of your saying, I come from South Africa. Okay, but it's Australian, which is where the intonation is up at the end.
Oh.
That's good.
Oh, lovely. Thank you.
Well, thank you for having me, Bevan and Alicia. And I appreciate this, and hope your program goes out to thousands and thousands and thousands of people. And I will do my best to give it that kind of energy. So hopefully all life that hears this has valued and has profited or benefited by what we talked about. I hope that whatever we talked about has impact for us, for all of us. So the ultimate message is unconditional love, kiddies. So, love each other. I like that song from the 60s, go out and love one another, whatever the melody is. Come on, people. Smile on your brother, everybody. Get together and love one another right now. Yeah.
Yeah. What a great musician you are. I can tell. It's like the songs are floating through. It's great.
Oh yeah, I remember it in the I Am effect, like listening to the recordings. I remember it at the end of the sessions when you would play some music and sing along with it.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah,
yes, thank you very much for the interview. And also your assistant said that you're giving listeners a free chapter from this book, Amazing Life-Changing Messages from the Light. So we'll be giving them a link to get there as well.
Yeah, and you can get a free chapter if you go to theenlightenedself.com. So you can get a free chapter on either love, happiness, or money. So that's kind of fun.
Fabulous.
Okay, excellent.
Thank you, Harrison. Lovely to meet you today.
Thank you. Pleasure to meet you, Alicia. And Bevan, I like your new beard.
Thank you. Thanks very much. I look forward to reading your book.
Okay. Have a great afternoon and evening. And until we meet again, all you guys out there, rock this world!
Yeah,
Thanks,
be
guys.
love.
See ya.
Okay.
Thank you, Bevan.